Welcome back once again, everybody, to what I am sure is a highly anticipated episode of Cedar Flags. Why? Well, because we're finally building our next coaster. It's been a little while between coasters here, but actually I don't think it's been that long. But yes, anyway, whatever, we are finally getting to it, and this episode is just going to be the track layout and design. I haven't really touched any scenery. Toward the end, you'll see we'll do a little bit of just kind of, I call it sketching of where the paths are going to go. But yes, not too much more than that. We haven't even done custom supports or anything, but I'll get into that as the episode goes on here. Yes, we are doing a B&M inspired invert. And I say inspired for all of my coaster designs just as a way out of trying to be like super, authentic to everything. I try to stay fairly authentic to the ride, but I'm not like a massive coaster nut, so I don't know the ins and outs of like the intricacies of all of these coaster companies and designs and stuff. So the first half of this episode, or first half of this time lapse actually, is going to be more or less me on my own sketching out a rough draft. And I say rough because there are several iterations of this track. And I was trying to build something that was close to what I figured was a decent layout for an inverted ride. The second half of this time lapse, I actually went into a live stream and had a bunch of awesome people helping me out, trying to figure out what the best way to do this is. And a lot of people who know way more about coasters than I do were giving me some really awesome tips for stuff like don't do that, do this, all of this stuff, giving me a lot of inspiration. So yes, thanks to anyone who was out there in the live chat and on Twitter. Actually, I had posted a photo of my first complete design of this ride, and I had a few people over there that were not such fans. It was actually a really rough layout. Looking back at this time lapse, it was really bad. So I'm actually grateful for the people who called me out on that. So yeah, a lot of awesome. You guys are awesome, is what I'm trying to say here. But no, as you can see, what we're doing here is just trying to get some elements laid out here. Like I said, I was going through in little chunks, about an hour here and there, on my own, just trying to get this track laid out. And I would do like one or two things and just be like, I really don't know what to do here. I was just hitting blocks. And I had a few things in mind of what I wanted to do. Obviously, the first drop has that pre-drop, that really classic B&M pre-drop into the long, sweeping, curved drop right into a vertical loop. And then from there, I really didn't know what else to do. It was really just trying to get a bunch of elements laid out. And if there's one thing that I learned from doing this video, it's that B&M inverts basically just throw you element after element. It's really crazy, and it's a really cool just ride altogether. If you're a coaster fan, these rides are awesome. But yes, I was trying to get that done, and it was just not happening. There were several just like iterations, I keep calling them, where I would do one thing and I was like, this isn't really working. I would do another thing and be like, it's getting closer, but it's not. And then sometimes when that happens, the best thing to do is to just completely scrap it and start new. But as I was going through here, you'll see I actually have a mid-course brake run. That's one of those things that I kind of wanted in this track layout at first. Eventually, we're going to scrap that altogether. But it was just one of those little things that I was just like, you know what? I knew I wanted that big, long, sweeping drop and then that vertical loop. And then I also wanted the mid-course brake run. And then at one point, I definitely wanted a corkscrew. Eventually, I go ahead and scrap the mid-course brake run altogether, and we just basically block up the track into sections at the end in the final brake run. In the end here, when we finalize this track layout, we can run 3 trains on it. It's probably not the most efficient because you'd always have a train kind of on that brake run ready to go into the station. But for the size of the park that we have here and the amount of people, honestly, we could probably fill up one train and just run with one train if we had to. But we'll probably run with 2 trains, and we'll probably never hit capacity. Although people in this game do tend to like their coasters, so maybe we'll always have full trains on it. I'm not really sure. But yeah, what you've seen me doing here is just really trying to get a couple things laid out here, trying to get that layout figured out. I had actually gone into Google Maps and hovered over some theme parks and tried to get layouts just visualized. Like, I wanted to see how these inverts were laid out. and it was really tough. Normally when I'm studying for a ride build like this, I do try to take some inspiration from real world videos. So I'll look up a coaster. I'll actually a lot of times ask you guys, like, what coaster should I look up if I'm gonna build something? A lot of great suggestions. But yeah, I'll look up the point of view ride on YouTube and watch it and try to get inspired by some things. But what I found for these inverted coasters is it's really hard to find great videos of on-ride videos for these coasters. Like, it's usually, from what I could tell, it's usually some guy with a camera holding it, and it was really bumpy and not great. The bigger problem, though, is that the track is above the riders, so it's like a lot of people don't, when they're filming it, they don't like look at the track. So it's really hard to like figure out like how is this track supposed to be shaped, you know, especially because on all those videos you can barely see the track. It's usually not in shot. So it was really rough. And eventually I had a good suggestion, which I am really embarrassed that I wasn't doing before, but it's basically just Google image an element and try to reproduce it based off the images, not off of video. So honestly, that is probably what I'm going to do from now on. Like I said, it's probably the best way to do it. And it actually ended up helping. We'll go back and revise the front drop, or the first drop, based off an image from a real world coaster. And then eventually we'll make an Immelman loop as well from an image of a real world coaster. And it was really, really awesome. But you're seeing the track evolve again. This is probably the second redesign in the video here, but yes, that inline twist, I had originally really wanted an inline twist, and it's still there right now, but it wasn't working for some reason. And there we go. We're taking it out now, and instead we're gonna do a 0G roll. And I really love this 0G roll. It is like massive, it's huge, it's awesome, and it's right over the station. If you're standing on the path and looking straight up at that station, it goes right over top of it. So it is a really like marquee element in this design. I think someone had said for B&M inverts, usually the 0G rolls are a little bit flatter than these, but it's one of those things that I really love how this turned out, so we kept it. Actually, on that note, this is probably the first coaster that I've made in this game with a couple fully customized inversions. A lot of people in this game do not like the pre-built inversions. If you are a massive coaster nut, it's a lot of times, like I said, like this 0G roll being a little too tall. You can't really adjust that in the pre-builts. You're pretty stuck to what they are. So when you plop them down, you can basically change the size of them, but you can't really change anything else. So it'd be really awesome if we could somehow be able to like smooth or get really into it and try to tweak them even further. But unfortunately, they're just big, uneditable things. So a lot of times people will do custom inversions in this game. It is really, really tough to do it though. And I got really lucky with a couple of the ones that we end up doing in this ride. They came out pretty good. They weren't really the hardest to do. I end up doing a corkscrew and an Immelman loop. Those aren't the hardest elements. Like if I wanted to actually go through and make a custom 0G roll, I feel like that would be very, very, very tough. I mean, the shaping of that is just so hard to get right. And actually what you're seeing me do right now, I had found a sideways loop, I think it's called. It's a pre-built element. I like the shape of it. I like that it was basically just like a really cool helix. I didn't like that it came off at a weird angle. So what I did is I actually broke that off and used it as a guide to then create my own version of this. And like I was just saying, we could go in here and we can edit it. We can make it taller. We could like change the whole overall shape of it with all of these custom parts here. And it ends up working okay. This is, once again, I think, first iteration of this ride. A lot of this gets changed. Actually, no, anything up to the cobra roll basically stays, but anything after that, you'll see, I tried to come up with this layout and it was okay. It just really wasn't true to B&M styling, so a lot of people were pretty not okay with it. And then, like, after people were basically pointing out how bad it was, I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, you guys are kind of right. So yeah, again, I tried to force that inline twist in there. There's something about the inline twist. I don't know if it's just this game or if it's maybe just the ride type, the inverted inline twist. It just doesn't look good. And I think a lot of the times here I was trying to force it in where it probably shouldn't be, and the train was probably going a little too fast there. But yeah, we end up scrapping that altogether. And yeah, I mean, it's just really weird. Also, this Immelman twist right here is my first try at a custom inversion. It wasn't that hard to do, and it kind of snapped to itself, to finish out that element, but it really wasn't the best. Like I said, a lot of this is going to go away, but the one good thing that came out of this iteration of the coaster was that trying to force the track back down through this sideways loop, we ended up coming up with a pretty decent finish in concept. Like, it's a pretty decent little run right here. But eventually we're going to change this a little bit. It's going to get a little bit more refined and a little cooler. But yeah, this ride looks just so good from the park. Like, as soon as you're walking down the main path, you see that giant cobra roll and you're like, oh man, that looks like a really cool coaster. And then as you get closer to the station, you see that 0G roll over the top of the station. You're like, oh, this coaster looks super intense and super cool. And in the end, it comes out pretty good. And here we go. We're actually going to be deleting a lot of this and trying again here. But yeah, this coaster, I think it's not, like, from a design standpoint, by the end of this live stream that I think we're now showing footage from, a lot of the people in the chat were like, this actually is pretty good. The ratings on it, like the in-game ratings, weren't the greatest, but then again, like, a lot of people have basically just assumed that the in-game ratings, like, as long as they're okay and guests are gonna get on your coaster, you're fine. You don't have to have like a 10.0 rating or anything like that. Yeah, but no, the one thing that I will mention, you're seeing this now here and there, if you've been paying attention to the track supports, is that this coaster type was insanely finicky with track supports. Not finicky. They just put a lot of track supports in. So that one sideways loop that we just deleted was just insane. So we ended up turning off a lot of the track supports. I think I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that we're going to have to go through and do some custom supporting here and there. Nothing too crazy, but the Cobra roll is going to need its own custom supports, and I think I'm going to do something with the 0G roll as well. And then the first drop, I believe, also needs some more supports. Actually, we're redoing some of the first drop right now. But yeah, I think I mentioned before that I'm not doing any of that in this episode. This is strictly the layout section here. But yeah, working some of the scenery, actually for the 0G roll altogether, I kind of want to work a support system into the station building. So that's going to be interesting. I have like a decent idea of what I kind of think I want for this station building. It's going to look more industrial like what we've been doing, and it's going to be, I hope I can pull it off, but it's hopefully going to look a little bit like a factory, like a forge, So yeah, it's going to be a little tough to do, but I think if I can pull it off like what's in my mind, it should be pretty cool. But no, anyway, what we're doing now is just working on our custom Immelman loop. Again, the Immelman loop, the pre-built in this game, it's really weird. It goes straight in and basically comes out right over top of the track. And in coaster designs, usually they'll, at the very top, like what I'm doing right here, is trying to turn it off a little bit, because then you can continue your track somewhere else, and it all works. The pre-built is really hard to do that with unless you come in really flat and then go into this loop and then continue over top of it. So yeah, all we're doing here is trying to turn off at the top here and continue on to the ride. This actually comes out pretty nice. It's probably one of the easier custom inversions you could do in this game, just in a coaster, but I guess it could easily be screwed up, but the shaping that we get is really good. I had a really good reference photo to work from. I think someone in the chat had linked that to me, so big props to them for coming up with something cool. And then eventually we're gonna redo that corkscrew as well. But I like this little area down here for this track. So you'll notice that the track kind of hops over a flat spot on the land, and then it goes down below the land, and then it hops back over. So we're gonna have a lot of fun, and toward the end of this time lapse, we're gonna be doing a little bit of like sketching of where all all the path work's gonna be, it's gonna be really cool. And I think once I started doing the path work on stream, a lot of people were like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. The entrance to this ride for the queue is gonna be right under that cobra roll. Really cool. And it's gonna basically be the first roller coaster in our park, I think, that has guests walking under it. So yes, the path is going to go under this corkscrew and then under that little not inverted, the elevated part of the track. So really, like, from a guest perspective, this ride is going to be really, really cool. But no, like I said, you'll see that take shape a little bit actually coming up here pretty soon here. But no, this the corkscrew I wanted to do custom just because I really didn't like the shaping of the in-game pre-built corkscrew. I thought it was a little bit too flat or skewed out. So you'll see right now I'm trying to get a little bit taller of a corkscrew going here. And then I end up liking a lot how this ends up going back to the station here. So yeah, that first iteration of the coaster had basically the corkscrew and then a left turn right back into the station. It was okay, but it could have been better, and then we made it better. So yeah, this now goes from the corkscrew into a bit of like a helix right back into the station, into the final brake run, and then into the station. So yeah, it's very B&M, apparently, from what I was hearing a bunch of the people in my live chat say. So I'm actually really happy that we ended up with something that was, I hope, fairly authentic. So I guess you guys could be the judges of that. A lot more people view the videos here than watch me on the live stream. But yeah, actually, speaking of that, I should mention that we're going to be doing a lot of scenery work. There is so much building to do for this ride. So there is going to be a lot of just building the station out and then building a lot of the scenery around this ride. So if you guys want to see that, and maybe the video isn't out yet, but you do want to see some content, I am going to be streaming a lot here coming up in the next week, trying to get that done and then get the next video over onto YouTube. So if live streams are your thing and you're not following me on Twitch, what are you doing? Go ahead and hit me up with the follow on Twitch. The link, as always, is down below in the description. Also, follow me on Twitter because I always announce there when I'm going live. And if you're really into it, go ahead and follow or join the Discord because I always announce over there as well. So if you want to catch a live stream and you just haven't been able to, you don't really know when I live stream, I really don't have a schedule, as you could probably tell from YouTube. But yeah, just throughout the week, I've been trying to set some time aside for that kind of work, or for live streaming and that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to get something together for you guys, but it's just so hard, and I apologize for that sometimes. But anyway, what we're doing to finish up this time lapse here is a little bit of terrain smoothing. Again, trying to sketch out what's going on here. And I love when you step back and look at this ride from a distance. It looks almost intimidating. It looks so good. And you know it's going to be a great ride when you're just like walking up the path. That's probably one of the first coasters I'd want to ride in this park if I were just coming in here. Actually, Gravity Mod's pretty cool too, but yeah, this is one of those rides that as you're walking down the path, you're like, oh, I need to ride that ride. It's so nice. But yeah, we're just wrapping up the time lapse here with a little bit of path work. Again, pathing in this game, very fun. It's so rough sometimes. I was trying to get these nice sweeping plazas around the track and some of this stuff, and it worked eventually. It just isn't as good as it could be or should be, but we have to take what we can get in this game sometimes. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it ends up looking pretty good. I'm very, very excited to finish this coaster. It's gonna be so nice to look at, and I think we're really going to incorporate some of the nature work and scenery around the ride. I'm really trying to embrace like having guests right up next to the track on this ride, and I think that's going to pay off. It's going to look super, hopefully realistic and super awesome in the park. But let's hop over to the live portion now and check out what we have just done, and we'll talk a little bit about the scenery that we're planning for the next episode. We are live, and we are looking at our newest addition to the park from the platform that we built in the last episode. This is Forged. That 0G roll is, oh man, that looks so good. Yes, this is the ride. I think Forge is the name. If you guys have any other suggestions, let me know, because I'm not 100% on Forge just yet, but I think we can incorporate some cool things with the overall design of the station and all that kind of stuff. This ride just looks so good from everywhere. This ride is just, it looks like a massive structure down there, and it just looks like something that it almost looks like a challenge, you know? Guests are going to be like, I have to ride that. I don't know what it's going to do to me, but I want to try, you know? Like, it's so good, and it's just, it's worked out. I mean, it doesn't have a massive footprint, although it does have, like, having the lift hill straight out of the station and then the brake run straight into it. It's a little bit longer than it is tall or wider, and it fits really well down here. And we're gonna do a lot of really awesome stuff with the path work around here. It should be pretty nice, but let's go step by step on the layout, I guess. I don't think I explained it too much in the time lapse. Obviously, you guys saw it happen, but it's kind of good to go step by step here. I'm not gonna do a POV video just yet. You guys know I love to do the cinematic POV when we're done with the coaster, so keep an eye out for that. This isn't going to happen when the ride is open. I don't think we can tweak the timers and stuff. I just don't think it works for the settings or in the test. But yes, this is the first drop here. It's got the little pre-drop that's pretty standard in a B&M inverted coaster. Straight into that large diving first hill. So awesome. And then straight into that vertical loop. This whole sequence is a pretty trademark B&M invert sequence. So after that, most of the B&M inverts basically change, or they do whatever. So we have a lot of options here. And like I said, this was basically just invert after inversion, and it's really, really cool. But yeah, you saw the 0G roll from a distance. It's just massive. It looks so good. Straight into a cobra roll, which we have yet to support. We're going to have to do that later. This was a request of the live chat. A lot of people were like, you know what? Just put another loop in there. So we're like, okay, so we did a second loop, not as big as the first loop. I think the first loop actually hits 100 feet, so that's interesting. But no, coming out of that second loop, we go into an Immelman here, and then into this little hop. I don't even know, this is just like a really strange turn here. So it hops over this path, and this is why it goes up. It looks so nice. The rating system in the game actually really loves this curve here, so really high excitement on this curve. So it should be, I guess we're doing something right there. But no, it goes straight into a corkscrew, which is really smooth on the ride itself. So it's going to be really awesome in the POV. But after the corkscrew, it then goes into this helix and then into the final brake run and back into the station. So I think I mentioned it, but we have two sets of block brakes back here. So if you guys want, when this coaster is done, actually there is a version of this on the Steam Workshop now that you guys can go ahead and download. The link I think is still in the description of this video to my Steam Workshop. But yeah, when this is done, if you guys have a packed park and you're looking for a ride that has a large capacity, this is going to be able to run 3 trains. So it should have a pretty good throughput of passengers. But no, we have a entire station building to build. Like I said, I want to do some sort of factory-inspired thing. We're trying to keep that same industrial feel, so I'm thinking a lot of brick and metal in this build. It's going to encompass the final brake run here, both sections of it, and then we're also going to have room for a transfer track. But we're going to have to do a lot of work with the supports as well. This cobra roll is going to need a custom support. We're going to do something hopefully pretty cool with this corkscrew here over this, because a regular support isn't really going to fit unless we put it right into the path. So I'm thinking some sort of like iron work or like some sort of cool rail system or archway to support that corkscrew is going to be really interesting. And then we, of course, have a lot of nature work and detailing to do. So yeah, that is going to be the next episode. That's it for this one though, guys. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Disliked it, thumbs down. If you'd like to make these episodes more frequent and help me out, go ahead and hit up my Patreon and check out the perks over there. You can get your name in the credits of these videos as well. And that's it for this one. I will see you guys in the next episode.